Welcome to the Rebel Road Show.
How many tulips is too many tulips?
We're talking with people making money off the beaten path. Let's kick it over to Madeline, who's got some drinks for us.
Tequila, gin.
Oh, and I'm getting paid for this too? Dope.
Every shoot's almost Fyre Fest, right? We're a picture of a sandwich away from just being canceled. Every shoot. Cheers. What's up, my friend? Welcome to the Rebel Road Show.
Good to be here.
No one has lived a more exciting life, in my opinion, than you. You are cinematographer extraordinaire. You've worked on Mars with Ron Howard, Belief with Oprah Winfrey, Beware of the Slender Man on HBO, and a slew of other things. You've been in Sundance. You've crashed some helicopters. You've been to, I don't know how many continents at this point.
All seven.
All seven.
All seven at this point, yeah.
Madeline, 7 on the bucket list?
Oh, for sure. But
Antarctica?
I don't know if I'm making it to Antarctica.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see a lot of like travel influencers hitting that check box on the bucket list. But are you shocked at how far picking up a camera has gotten you?
Yes, I think so. I think for me too, because it wasn't a profession that some people just know that they want to do this as a kid. Some people are like, oh, I just want to be a director, a cinematographer, whatever. For me, I just was messing around filming skateboarding videos with my friends. And I think my dad might be the most surprised out of anyone who had no idea this was going to be a real thing. But yeah, just skateboarding videos as a kid turned into filming some weddings and then some bar mitzvahs and then some commercials and then pick time to go to college and what are you going to do with the rest of your life? And I was like, I'm good at this camera thing. I think of this, what I do mostly as a craft and less of an art. Like, I don't think this is a thing that you have to be naturally born with. Like, you don't have to have an eye.
Don't
like,
sell
I think you
yourself short
can,
like that.
well, I do genuinely believe that like this is a craft that you can perfect. And that's what I think is so cool about it. Like, it's very entry level. But it really is, and sure, there's some natural skill to it, but it truly is a measure of how much work you put into it is what you can get out of it.
Right. Like, I'd say that 1 year of Nick Midwig's cinematography tour would last like a lifetime for people's bucket lists. One of the biggest things you did, Mars with Ron Howard, in SpaceX during a pivotal moment for them. Like, that must have been a crazy experience.
That was wild. So for that series, what we did is, I'll make sure I get all the historical facts right, but it was December 2015. It was SpaceX's first successful landing of a reusable rocket. So now they're doing it all the time. Now it's a big deal. It's real. Or now it's less of a big deal. But what they did, if you're not familiar with SpaceX, is why rocket propulsion is so damn expensive is they build this $1 billion, whatever, how much it costs rocket, send it into space, and then all the parts that you use to send this rocket into space to satellites, whatever you want to get up there, just as a heaping pile of trash in the ocean, you throw it away, and then you got to build a whole new one. So you imagine every time you flew an airplane, they had to throw the plane away. The tickets would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars per ticket. So what SpaceX did is design the first rocket that could be, launched up into space, and then they control that rocket, they come back down, and they land it. So what was cool is we were with Elon Musk, the CEO, founder of SpaceX, and we were in the room with him while that first rocket was landed. I think it's going to be... my friends who worked on that, it's going to be like one of those famous archival scenes in like 50 years or 100 years when people are doing the Elon Musk doc and you're like, oh yeah, I remember shooting that.
Well, I think we actually got a clip. But before we do that, before we do movie time, let's kick it over to Madeline, who's got some drinks for us. And we got a special drink for you, Nick. We're going to have a Space Cadet, which Madeline, tell us, what is a Space Cadet?
So it has tequila, gin, bitters, a little bit of syrup, mango juice, and lemon juice. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Nice.
Better than Coronas in the Marriott hotel lobby on our shoots.
Can we cuss on this?
Yeah, you can
Oh man,
fucking drop it.
I fucks with a Marriott Corona, man.
Yeah, that was like the biggest thing during the pandemic I missed was, besides friends and family, was probably right up there, that Marriott Corona.
We usually don't do a 12-hour day.
Who needs?
We were doing
What are we,
8-hour
Amish?
days.
They're not doing that.
8-hour days before it was cool.
Yeah. 8-hour days are where to go. So Zux, while she's making this cocktail, pull up movie time because I want Want to watch this clip?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what was Elon Musk like? I mean, to be a fly on the wall for that moment, that's you can probably feel the tension in the room. SpaceX was like on the line for that rocket land, right? Because they had already had one rocket blow up.
Yes, I believe they had a failure at that point. One, maybe two failures, but I know at least definitely one. So it's just a lot of pressure. And then this one is the Antarctica stuff. So I don't know if you wanted to go Elon or if you wanted to go Antarctica.
Let's go Elon. But don't play it yet. Just get it up.
Elon was fascinating. Like Elon is, I mean, really tall guy and insanely fast. Between like all the businesses he's running to like he was fully present in this rocket launch. Like it wasn't like he was like a guest, like where he just like popped in and was like, hey guys, like what is it all going? Like he's like literally like, oh, what's going on with this? We've got an issue here. What are we doing about this thing? Like, are we teed up? And you know, while he's doing that, like anytime he gets a moment, he's like, boom, firing off 5 emails for like some massive Tesla.
He's really
thing
like
that's
that.
going on. You know, and then he's like sifting through Twitter to see what's going on Twitter. And then he's like on the phone and then he's like, you know, and the dude's got a bunch of kids too, and he's like a really good dad to his kids. So he's
really,
yeah, you know,
so he doesn't sleep. He's just full blown lizard people alien vibe, or what?
I don't know
kidding.
how he does it, but yeah, it was impressive to see him work. You know, love the guy, hate the guy, whatever you feel about him. Like, dude is working his ass off, and it's crazy. Like to build a company like SpaceX from nothing is like a massive feat.
I feel like out of all the billionaires out there, he's the one that seems to be trying to push the human species forward, right? So there's always some altruistic motivation behind it. Like even with like Neuralink, which is something like I've been following lately, but just like the fact that it might cure dementia and epilepsy and things like that. Like there's always some, or the Boring Company, right? I think it started probably as like a joke for him just to call something the Boring Company, but like he's trying to solve a legitimate problem.
He's solving problems,
not
and
just make us buy a bunch of stuff.
And I'll butcher the like little bit of a tangent here, but you know, the belief that I think he subscribes to is the like going to the moon in the 60s, like physically going to the moon didn't cure all these problems, but look at all the technology that came from it. Look at the generation of people it inspired. Look at, you know, so if you made the argument of like pushing to go to Mars, you know, what could come from that? You know, the engineers that come from that, the kids who watch that on TV, you know, it's like, does he birth like a whole new generation of people who love space and innovation? And so, you know, might be putting a little like words in his mouth, but I think that's kind of the philosophy. It's like, it's not about physically going to Mars. We're not gonna like, eventually, you know, terraforming another planet, living on Mars. That's like a whole separate thing, but we're so far from that. Like, it's just about the idea of being, able to get to another planet. What does that mean for us? What does that, you know, can that solve the problems back home by pushing this new level of innovation? But interesting guy.
Yeah. For sure. And
Ooh,
cocktails. All right.
nice.
Speaking of interesting guys, we're about to get a lot more interesting after this. Here we go.
Oh,
Thank you, Madeline.
thanks, Madeline.
All right, so we're going to do movie time. So set up this scene for me here before Zucks hits play. What are we about to watch? And who's doing what? Are you with Elon in this clip?
Yes. So this is that launch in 2015. And this is me in the room. They only let me in the room, which was something they told me like right in the last moment. So I only had the onboard camera mic was the only thing I was allowed to use. So I had to like really get all up in their business. But yeah, just me and Amira. Like the camera was a lens was a 17 to 120. And it was literally, I wasn't even allowed to put anything on the ground. That's how crazy they were about restrictions, rules, and everything. So I had batteries on my belt, cards on my, person, everything. But yeah, then I was in there, like the clip's really short, but I think I was in there for a couple hours with him while we waited for like this whole thing to unfold. I think
before movie time, cheers, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. Play it, Zucks. Okay. How tense is the room in this moment?
It's insanely tense. But honestly, you didn't even, like, it was such an adrenaline high. So that's the failure that happened a few months before. So that was the headquarters in California.
Jesus.
We had 2 separate teams filming simultaneously.
Yeah, how many? What's the crew? How many people?
On the East Coast side, Cape Canaveral, it was only 3 people. That was like a big deal too. A lot of times they only let 1 or 2 people come in. That was another failure. And then Hawthorne, California was probably another 2 or 3 people on that side. Maybe 3 or 4.
Oh, that was close. Jesus.
Yeah, which is nuts. Sometimes they land on these little barges out in the ocean, and then sometimes they land on sections of land.
Wow.
But that was in the room with the engineers. That's in the room with Elon. That's me getting ridiculously close because I needed to for the onboard mic because they wouldn't let sound person in the room with us.
So in that moment, is he even aware that you're there?
You know, not really. I think he was just so focused. He knew we were filming. We had been filming with them for months at that point. And he's just so in the zone. And then, they had we had a really good relationship with SpaceX.
So this is the launch. When does the re-landing happen?
7 minutes after the launch.
So they're going into outer orbit and coming back down?
Yes. Yep.
7 minutes.
7 minutes. So that's when he unplanned, takes off. You can, I think, see Timey. Oh, no. My wife, who I work with,
so
was
what
right behind that door.
What does he do? What do you do when he just takes off like that?
You just run. You don't even think. You just take off. So that's the rocket going up. That's his reaction. That's one of their cameras. They've got these crazy special cameras. And it's just like you're locked in for 7 minutes. And those 7 minutes, you have to have a battery ready. You have to have a card ready. Those 7 minutes of raw footage basically play out in the series in real time. It's such a critical window. So, when you're doing this doc stuff, you're always thinking ahead. You're always, do I have backups for backups?
Yeah, so night before, are you anticipating all these? Because I know you.
Every snenario. Yeah.
Was him running out the door a scenario you thought of?
No, I didn't. But you kind of plan for anything. You kind of plan for I've got enough batteries to last a day if I got locked into this room. I got enough cards to last a day if I got locked in this room. You're on an easy rig, and that easy rig is ridiculously dialed in. I got a bottle of water on me. I got everything.
Was he physically nervous?
Oh, yeah. Dude was sweating. That's as real of a moment with him as you could possibly get. And that's why all those people in Hawthorne, California.
Oh, so that's back at HQ.
Yeah, that's back at HQ. Those are all the engineers, and only a few select people are in Florida. Because the Florida part is a government-run facility, so it's a lot more restrictive. So then this is it coming back down. It's pretty insane. This massive hunk of metal can land straight up like that. And then people just went nuts.
Wow.
This is years and years and years of work to get them to this point. Very much they told me this was a lot of the older people who had been around at NASA forever was this was the energy of what NASA was like in the 60s.
Right.
This
this is a historic moment to apparently because of the reusable rocket now you can do a lot more missions, costs went down. So now potentially doing greater things in space are now possible because of this.
Totally, yeah. This was the one of the big milestones to get to a place where space becomes more efficient.
So do you now have a path to get off this flaming rock when shit hits the fan? Is that part of the deal?
I'm sticking here. I'm riding it out. Yeah? Honestly, there's
I'll
nothing.
take your spot.
There's
I don't want to
nothing
go in space.
on Mars
yeah.
right now. Maybe in 1,000 years or something, and
There's just Matt Damon up there, and he seems like a.
Yeah.
He seems like he does bad things in space, and from Interstellar to.
I'll burn down here. Yeah. I'm fine.
Well, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Was that the biggest adrenaline rush that you have had on set? Because you knew that you're capturing this one moment.
That came second to rigging GoPros for Nina Agdal. His swimsuit.
Well, that's funny because that's all interconnected, right? You shot this, and then you went to Antarctica.
Yeah.
And you were supposed to shoot swimsuit with us.
Yep.
And you got stuck in Antarctica. So tell me about that aspect of it. Going to Antarctica, what is that situation like? Who did you go with? Because that was all part of Mars, correct?
Yep, all Mars. That was season 1 of Mars. This was also season 1 of Mars. We did 2 seasons of Mars. But season 1 of Mars, we went to Antarctica. to film a scientist who researches life in the most remote places on Earth. So there's a place in Antarctica called the Dry Valleys, and in the Dry Valleys, it's like you can imagine what it would be like. Like it's very similar to Mars. No snow, no nothing, just these vast land of red sand. And there's these little like microbe, like I don't even know what they are. But yeah, this guy like goes out and gets these soil samples and stuff. So we went with the National Science Foundation. Pretty sure it's a National Science.
I think we got
NSF,
video of this too.
So NSF, if you wanted to play it. And that was all, kind of sanctioned with the U.S. government. It's really hard to get down there. So really, like, the only two paths you can kind of get to Antarctica is, like, a couple of these, like, tourist cruise ships will go down there. They're crazy expensive, and sometimes they don't even let you, like, step foot on land. Or you get down there with, like, a science-based mission. So this was a science-based mission. They allocate X amount of seats for, artists or camera people or documentaries or research or, kind of whatever. Different allocations for bodies that they let down there. Because there's nothing. There's a little infrastructure there. This is the McMurdo base. So we went down there for a couple weeks to film with this scientist who was researching life in the most remote places on Earth. And Antarctica was one of them. But yeah, I mean, getting down there was a little crazy. You got to go to Christchurch, New Zealand, and then you're kind of like in a holding pattern waiting for weather for a couple days. You kind of wait, you get all suited up, ready to go, like in your like survival suit, everything. You fly in I think it's a C-130 plane. No, you fly on basically one of these big military aircrafts, or like big cargo planes where you sit in these little nets essentially, and you're like 8 hours in this plane sitting in this like little net. And they give you big Canada Goose government issued jackets, which was
Canada
awesome.
Goose government issued jackets.
They're
That's
like
what you're
the hardcore survival ones. They're like the bright red ones with like the reflectors and everything.
How cold was it?
It was pretty cold. It wasn't crazy cold when we were there, but probably fluctuating in like the -10, between 20 and -10, depending on like wind chill and stuff. And it's a little hard down there, I ate a lot of frozen pizza. That's like was a go-to meal down there. A lot of frozen everything. But yeah, you take these 2 helicopter flights out, and then the helicopter drops you off, and they drop you off with these survival bags that are basically these sacks. So you got your Canada Goose and a sack, and inside the sack, there's a bunch of old Cliff Bars, and it's like enough Cliff Bars for you to survive a couple days.
Is that for real?
Because then they drop you off and then they leave you there. If weather kicks in, if a storm kicks in, if anything like happens, you got to be able to survive out there for like 2 or 3 days.
And what are the storms like? What do you mean if a storm kicks in?
Like, if
like Papa John's can't deliver.
Papa John's can't. Yeah.
Papa's not in the house.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are the storms like? We're talking like a blizzard
like
that lasts.
Like a crazy windstorm, blizzard, something, anything that, some sort of, even if it's not near you, even if it's just in the path of where the helicopters come back to get you. And they give you like an Iridium satellite phone.
Is that because of the helicopter usage?
Exactly, because you can only get in and out via helicopter.
And what does it do to your gear? Like, what's shooting in Antarctica like? Like, what kind of preparations did you have to do?
It was there. Mostly, there was a lot of dust consideration because where we were, it was basically like Mars. It was like being in a desert. So a lot of like wind kick up, dirt and dust. But then also from the cold, if the batteries go out, so much faster when you're out in the cold. So then you got to be considerate of that. So I had these special battery belts that are like made out of this special chemistry that would power the camera for like 10 times longer or whatever. And then you just get a backpack full of batteries, and then you just kind of, you get to a point where you're like, oh, okay, cool, I can't charge a battery for 4 days. Like let's scratch down, do the math. Like, I can get, if I use 6 batteries per day over 4 days kind of thing. So you just got to be a little bit more mindful of stuff like that.
This is why you're the only person that I know that could have done that, because that's a lot of right brain.
It was a lot
cross-checking that you got to do. A lot of math involved. See, that's what makes you unique, right? The fact that you are so buttoned up in that regard. You're like an engineer on one side of your brain, and then you are this artistic cinematographer who does have an amazing eye, regardless of what you say.
But I think the eye can be trained. That's
okay.
That's my spiel is just that.
It's a Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hour sitch. It's like
I think
Kobe
it's
in the gym.
Like I think what I do, I think some people do it and make it an art. and I'm all about that. But what I think I do is a craft. And I think like you can master a craft. I don't think I've mastered it yet, but I think that's where I'm on the path to being. Like a bricklayer, you know, like that's how I think of it. Like, do you call bricklaying art? Maybe, you know, but like I think of
Your dad's not going to watch this. You don't have to try to relate it to construction.
but it's all I know. I mean, construction and this, the only two jobs I ever had. It's like the only things that make sense to me.
Well, you're a mighty fine bricklayer, my friend.
But yeah, bricklaying, it's just a craft. DP
Was it
is
rough
just a
out there?
craft.
Like, I know the food sitch sucks, right?
Yeah,
The weather sucks, but to work in those conditions.
I mean, physically hard, but like for the experience that you're getting, it's so cool. But yeah, no, it was.
I
it was
wouldn't
cool.
last. I'd maybe last a day. Madeline, how long do you think you can last in Antarctica?
I think I could last. I feel like I could do it. Like, I think it sounds scarier, but like you're having the most unbelievable experience, so it's like worth it. I think.
Is it unbelievable?
I think 5 days.
You ask me at like whenever I shot that, like 26 or 27 years old, it was unbelievable. You ask me now at 33,
Yeah, my old ass ain't
I'd be
doing
like,
that.
give me a job in like Indianapolis near an airport,
Yep. Easy. In and out.
all indoor.
Some. I barbecue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hire Zucks to do the Ronin, so I don't have to hold it.
Zucks, how you feeling about Antarctica? You can handle it?
I'd probably last an hour and a half.
Hour and a half? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cold
I've got
is.
horrible blood flow, so I would lose my fingers quite.
I
fast.
think I'm with you. Heat, extreme heat and extreme cold, not things I like.
Yeah, you had to layer. You had to be smart about what you were wearing.
I'm like
That was a
Miami
big-
in November kind of vibe.
Well, that was the funny thing too. Like you were trying to hire me to come down to Miami. How much of a
Oh, that's right.
a polar opposite, literally a polar opposite of types of shoots.
Yes,
from
you-
going to shoot this in Antarctica to trying to shoot. What was it? Swim week in Miami.
You were in Antarctica and you had told me that I probably can't do this swimsuit launch in Miami. And I was like, I need you there. And you're like, well, I might get stuck in Antarctica, which I didn't know. I'm like, what do you mean stuck? I could buy you a day. I didn't know there's windstorms for 3 weeks that like can get you trapped at one of the poles.
Yeah.
So what was that like? You told was it the Air Force or who's up there?
Yeah, it was like, well, I think they're all National Science Foundation, but they're all like ex-Air Force guys. They fly in all their lives kind of dudes. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we were in a holding pattern. We didn't know if we were going to be there for a day or 5 days or 10 days, but I got all the guys pretty hyped because I was like, yo, guys, I got to get back to Miami. I'm filming swimsuit. What can we do? So that was this running joke where they are like, guys, we got to get him out of here. This is important. But I was like hitting you up from the like 56K modem internet that they got down there.
Well, that was the craziest part. It's like we're getting closer to the date. Your cell phone wasn't working. I would get these random calls and you would check in at the randomest times and be like, not looking good.
Yeah.
The sun, there's a solar flare that caused a dust up or whatever the hell it was. And then I think we pulled the trigger probably like 3 days before the shoot. I gave up on you.
I think so. I think, yeah.
I held on for as long as I could.
I know. Oh, that one hurt.
Quite different to be.
I would have loved to like go straight to Miami after that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
After like weeks of sleeping in a tent in your own filth.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, that was a
switch it
good
up.
one.
Yeah, but it's always been fun, the dualities of working on a wide range of projects where you can be doing hardcore, serious, super depressing HBO documentaries or fun, lighthearted, branded swimsuit.
Like-
the range is nice.
Like Beware of the Slender Man, which you worked on HBO, which is super dark. Probably like don't want to go there, to be honest. That's a
it's a
fucked up story.
it's a heavy one.
it's a heavy one.
It's a good watch, but it's heavy. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a wonderful film. I personally, not my taste to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of animated kids movies these days, but that's just because I'm
Sounds
living
nice.
that dad life. But Beware of the
Yeah,
Slender Man,
yeah.
probably going to wait 12 years for them to watch that.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. That was like kind of my first big standout documentary.
Madeline, I think Nick's looking like he needs another one.
Do you need one too?
Yeah, I'll take a topper for all the aspiring cinematographers watching this, the millions and millions that are watching this, bajillions that are watching this. Is it typically like it's rare for a doc center DP to work narrative, or are you seeing now more because of the streaming services and whatnot that there's a mix between the two? How would you, is that a hard line to navigate?
Between documentary and narrative, is that what you're?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say I'm mostly focused in the documentary space. Like I shot one narrative film with this guy Sam Tressler. It was a crazy, weird.
It was a 3D narrative
black
film, and
and
you
white.
built the rig. Don't undersell
3D,
it. Don't
black and white. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of people don't toe both. Like I think it's very different skill sets for both and very different ways of working for both narrative and documentary. I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe there's a ton of people that do both, but I think it's really something you kind of hone in on one thing or the other. And that narrative grind is tough, man. I was out in LA a couple weeks ago and I caught up with Jack for a drink.
Nice.
And he's like hardcore
Shout out Jack
doing
Sherman.
Jack, if you're seeing this, man.
He'll be on soon. He'll be on.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one, man. It was great to catch up with Jack. And I mean, like, he is killing it. Thank you.
Oh, he's doing great. He had
Madeline.
2 films in Sundance.
2 films in Sundance. And he is just like, and dude is busting his ass. Like, he's working so fucking hard. But yeah, I think you really got to, like, it's not a thing you can, like, to do narrative. It's not a thing you can, like, flirt with like I want to do. Like you gotta like commit.
Well, you do so much commercial work that you are always kind of practicing that skill set, right?
I bounce between the commercial and the documentary more than the narrative and the documentary.
I think because every doc DP needs a break and to work on a commercial. Not that they're not intense, but that one day versus being in Antarctica for a couple weeks.
Totally, Antarctica for a couple weeks. I probably spent more than 200 days on the road last year in 2020, like physically on the road, like over 200 days. We'd do like 4 weeks in Seattle, and then I would go to Portland for a week before, and then Portland for a week after. So it would be 6 weeks away, and come back to New York for 4 days, and then go do another 6 weeks on the road. And, I chose to do it all. So it's less like not complaining about the work. I was very fortunate for that work, but there's definitely something to be said about showing up, having the support and the team of people to help you do things. And then, you work 1 day, 2 days, and then go home to your own bed at night. That's also nice.
I think that's the one thing that people have a hard time wrapping their head around when you describe your job is that, like, yes, I don't work for one specific place and show up Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. But like, there's waves of work, there's seasons of work, there's different things to this gig life that I guess everyone in film mostly partakes in, and that the schedule and that lifestyle is a choice, right? It's
totally. Yeah.
There are a lot of perks, and Instagram sells a good reality of how amazing it is, but it is a trade-off to certain things. Like you're gonna miss things. You're not gonna be home for dinner every night. But you're gonna see a lot of really cool things, get to experience a lot of things, get camaraderie on sets, and meet people all across the world that you normally wouldn't have been able to do. And I think that's what I think is attractive to a lot of people, but also turns people off immediately. I think you're either super into film in doing this, or you're not.
Yeah, and if you're not, it's not a good place to hang out if you're not into it.
Right.
Yeah. Like, and I always say to people, like, man, it's like the best job in the world for your 20s and even into your 30s. But I know a lot of people in their 40s and 50s who are still doing it who don't love it the same way.
It's a priority shift and things.
Yeah.
But there are still routes to go to stay in the business. It's just going to look a little different.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's the thing is you got to start to normalize the irregularities of this work. Like it is not, you're not going to have any structure. You're not going to have, like it's not weird to not work for 6 weeks over the winter and then work like 22 days in a row come February or March, So like, how do you balance that? How do you build a lifestyle around that? How do you build like self-care around that? Like are all big things you have to figure out in this world, if like, whether it's therapy or the gym or, eating healthy, like those are all things that like you can't go on a long-term sustainable path of this business unless you're Will Atherton. He's the only person I've ever met who can just like, he's like the happiest dude I've ever met doing this. And he is just like, somehow like he always looks healthy and he's like eating great and just like having the fucking time of his life.
You know, he doesn't.
But Will's the only one I know who's like figured it out. Everyone
He's
else
single. He has no kids. He's living the
Yeah.
dream. There are certain DPs that can definitely toe that line and just fully embrace the nomad kind of lifestyle and like the fun aspects of it. And there's others that want to settle down more and they have to adjust. But there's definitely ways to do it, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And you just got to make priorities and pick the right kind of jobs and want to work with the right type of people. And
I think the amazing thing about film production that I have seen is that the way to make it in film is a natural weeding out process of people that are not going to have the stomach for it. So like even starting out as a PA, it's the random, $100, $200 days that maybe you get 2 in August and you got to hustle and do other gigs to supplement until you meet enough producers to have steady work, or maybe you land at your feet at a production company, or maybe you land on a series. But like, or if you're in the camera department, if that's where you transfer from PA and now you're in AC, just to get used to that and to build your kit and to learn the business of renting out your kit, and then graduating to camera op, where now you have a camera, now you have lenses. Like, I think what's hard for people to understand is that it's not like your typical gig economy. It is really like a handyman construction job where you are running your own business. You have tools that you're renting out. You're charging for time and hours and travel days and learning all those aspects. There's much more business savvy that needs to go in it. And I think that that's something that in college they don't do, right? They don't explain to you the crew life business that you have to run. And I think that you, over anybody that I've worked with, toes that line really well, where you have it all dialed in. If say that regular 9-to-5 job is school, well, what we do is like we're on permanent field trip, right? Like every day's different. I get to see things. I feel like I've grown so much as a human being just from living in other people's shoes on a dock, or getting to interview this engineer at Qualcomm who's so smart I can't even understand what he's saying, but it's fascinating, and he'll dumb it down for me and like open my mind up to a whole nother world. Like, that's the things that like is priceless, right? It's like
totally. What other job drops you into like all these different worlds so seamless and easily?
Right.
Like, that's what's so cool about it. You're just like, you're on this crazy, you're on a farm in Iowa on this day, and then you're on like a racetrack in Miami on this day, or then like it's just, it's cool. The amount of experience that you get, life experience that you get in such a short window is just like, it's phenomenal. Like, I love it. Yeah, absolutely.
And even like owning my own business, like just to interview all these entrepreneurs and to be able to like deep dive for an hour into their story and to like have that time to learn from them has been just eye-opening. Like, I was somebody in my late 30s, wasn't even thinking about like retirement or finances. And I did so many of these videos that I was like, wow, like, gotta get my shit together.
Hardest interview. What was
Hardest interview?
ever?
Oh, easy. Ken Griffey Jr.
Maybe not worst, but just hardest.
I will say that like on some of the more technical stuff, like talk to any subject matter expert and try to hang with them is a tough task.
Yeah.
And it's something that early on I probably didn't embrace, but I embrace that shit now. And like, I'm just on my studying. I think it's because I'm older, I'm more mature. I like accept that portion of it and not just like, oh, this is beneath me.
Did you have a funny Katie Couric one?
Yes, I was interviewing Katie Couric. I was interviewing Katie Couric, and I just go through my routine too. Like, okay, I'm talking to someone that owns a bake shop down the street. I gotta tell them as if this is their first day on set. Hey, they're not going to hear my voice. Please springboard the questions. Blah blah.
There's
blah.
like a little like spiel we do. That's
Little
like
spiel.
Almost
It's
like
autopilot.
automated. Yeah,
It's autopilot.
Please do this, this, and this. Don't look at the camera. Da 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 da. Yeah.
And she was like, I've done this once or twice. To which my response was, oh, it's my first time.
It's your first day too.
It's my first day. That's when I get the most nervous. Believe it or not, it's when I interview people that interview for a living. So not Martha Stewart. What's her name? Barbara Walters made me nervous.
yeah,
Katie
that'd be,
Couric made me nervous. Soledad
Yeah.
O'Brien made me nervous.
I
It's
worked
like,
on a project where they interviewed Ira Glass, and the director was like, well, this will probably be the most stressful interview I've ever done. Really, the guy who's literally built an empire on
Right.
interviews. Yeah, absolutely.
And I was on the red carpet at Time 100, and they're like recording my voice during it. And then all of a sudden, like, all these people started showing up. Like, they're going to be judging me on what I'm saying. But I'm pretty good at, like, when I get nervous, so if it's Magic Johnson or a hero of mine, growing up that I have to sit across, I just, like, get so focused on, like, the fact that if you fuck up a job in this world, like, you just can get yanked out. So I just, like, at the end of the day, like, nothing's going to stop me from doing what I need to do, because it's like preservation at that point. It's like, well, I have a family to feed, so just suck it up and who gives a shit? Just do your job.
Yeah.
Execute at any cost. Like, just do it. Yeah. You got a shady permit, figure it out. You got, whatever it is, you have to get it done. So get it done.
And then you look back at the thousands of shoots, like, how many maybe you can count on one hand where you didn't figure it out?
Every shoot's almost Firefest, right? That's the basic gist.
Totally.
We're a picture of a sandwich away from just being canceled. Every shoot.
There's a lot of laughs in the room.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, back to that permanent field trip, like, you doing the doc stuff that you do and the adventure portion of it, you've had to go through excess training. Like, so talk to me a little bit about, I believe you went through some helicopter crash training, and what was that for?
So that was for that Mars show again, season 2 of Mars. And what it was, we were going to work on an oil rig on the coast of Norway. So for the insurance companies to approve you showing up on that physical oil rig, and it's an oil rig, like, it's like a 30-minute helicopter ride off the coast of Norway, but it's like you're surrounded by ocean on all sides. Like, it's the middle, it's out there. But for the insurance company to approve you going out there and staying there for any amount of time, you have to have this, basically, it's like helicopter crash survival training, which I wasn't psyched about doing, but it was like one of those things that you just had to do. So that was, again, me and my wife. So Timey, she's my wife. We work together a ton. She's worked with Rubber Road.
Incredibly talented.
Love her. She's amazing. She was the director on it, and I was the DP on it. And then we went up to Svalbard, basically like one of the furthest north places like you can get in Norway. It's like in the Arctic Circle. So what they do is it's not just helicopter crash. It's like a lot of like basic survival skill set stuff. And it was a couple days, and they did it in English, which was great, but it was like very broken English. Like, I could barely follow what a bunch of these like Norwegian dudes were saying. You kind of get like every 3 words, and there's like a sharp bitterness like to the humor there too that I wasn't following at all. So you couldn't tell when they were joking or when they were not. But the gist of it was, can you survive a helicopter crash in below freezing water for enough time for a rescue mission to get to you? It was like essentially what it is. So you have
this must happen a lot, right? You got to train for it.
Well,
what
scary,
percentages are we talking about?
I mean, we're not talking like you're not definitely gonna crash, but like every
10%?
year.
What are we talking here?
I don't even know. I can't even get into the percentages. But like when you're there, one full day is dedicated to like the most recent helicopter crashes over the last 10 years, and it's all like Navy SEALs and like the British Navy SEALs, the Norwegian Navy SEALs, like everyone's equivalent, like the best guys in the world crash and die in helicopters in these waters. So it's just like a thing that they just take very seriously. Like helicopter crashes are a big deal, and if you don't have the right training in a helicopter crash, it's really like you're gonna die basically. So
Navy SEALs, and then like 6 hipsters from Brooklyn show up.
6 hipsters. Well, it's 2 hipsters from Brooklyn.
2 hipsters from Brooklyn.
Me and Timey.
That's it.
But yeah, essentially what they do is they put you in these crazy survival suits that are like, if you got stuck in the water, you could survive for X amount of hours in these survival suits. That's, like life jacket kind of things and everything. So then they take you out. It's like the winter in Norway. So they put you out in the fjord out there, and you have to just sit out there for hours just to like psychologically not break what it would be like to be this cold. Because even in a survival suit, it's fucking cold. So you're just out there for a couple hours waiting for you to break. Then they put you in a life raft that's like with like 20 other people, and they make you sit in the life raft for a couple hours. just so you know, like psychologically break. It's like preparing you to like not break. You know, it's like everyone's got a job, everyone's got a responsibility. Who's doing this? Who's paddling? Who's in charge of food? Kind of thing like that. And then they do the helicopter training. So what they do is they have a massive helicopter over an Olympic-sized pool, and they put you in the helicopter and they strap you in, like as if you were in like a normal helicopter.
Right.
And the helicopter flips upside down and then dunks into the water. And then you have to then upside down slowly without panicking, and they do it over and over and over and over again, dip you under. So then you hold your breath, you take a deep breath, and then you stay as calm as possible, and then your head goes under, and then your body goes under, and then you have to wait for the buoyancy to even out within the helicopter. So if you just there's air in the helicopter and you just start hitting the window, you can't get out because there's too much pressure coming from outside against the window. So you could break your arm so you have to sit there calmly while the water fills up in the helicopter and the buoyancy evens out, and then you hit the window out, and then you have to unbuckle. This is all blindfolded. You unbuckle, you find blindfolded in the sense of you're underwater,
Right.
So it's if you can open your eyes and kind of see, but it's super dark in the pool, and they kind of do it on purpose that way to kind of intensify the experience.
Right.
So if you were to go through an experience like this, you've got the training for it. So yeah, they flip you upside down, they dunk you. You have to then wait until you can't feel water, or you can't feel air anymore. Essentially, you pop your seatbelt off. You've got to you navigate your way around in case it's dark. They ask you to do it blind, with your eyes closed. Essentially, you climb out the window, and then you climb up and you breathe for air, and then you do it over, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and they've got these different.
How many times do you do that?
I mean, I think we probably did it 10 or 15 times.
Are there
a day.
scuba suits outside waiting to save you?
Totally.
In case?
There's a guy that is gonna save you, but it's gonna get bad before they're gonna save you. They want you to really panic, freak out, and basically breathe in water before they get you to that point, because they want you to have the muscle memory built in to be able to survive a helicopter crash.
I'm not a great swimmer, so that's not something for me. Madeline, you played water polo.
And I swam on the swim team.
You think that you could handle that?
I think I could do that training.
I think you could do it. It's
I don't think you have to be a super strong, unless you're a super strong swimmer.
you don't have to be a super strong swimmer. You just have to be able
Not
to
freak out.
not freak out. It's not panicking is the biggest thing.
Don't you think that that you're in this simulation, so you're already not freaking out?
Hold on, you're
Well-
still underwater.
But you know what I
drowning's
mean?
still an
You
option.
know
It's still on the
there's-
table.
Well,
There's
here's the
someone on
thing.
standby to save you.
Is they
In a
there
real
is someone
helicopter
on
crash.
I
standby,
ain't trying to swallow water.
but
I'm
you
just
would
saying.
you would legit they let you get to the point where you're almost to the point of, oh my God, I'm gonna die before they come in and cut the seat, because they physically have to cut the seatbelt out. If they're basically there to if your seatbelt clip broke, if it was a 1 in 1 million chance your seatbelt clip broke and they couldn't get you out, they could cut the seatbelt and then they would take you up. But they really do want you to sit through the discomfort of the panic of it. So it's just the not freaking out. But honestly, you get to the point where you're strapped in this fucking helicopter and it flips upside down and dunks into the pool. There's not a choice. It's get out or die. So you really do switch into that fight or flight mode. But it was good.
You would do it?
I would do the training.
I think,
hell no, I ain't
I
doing
think
that.
she would do the train. I think she'd be great.
I
at
don't
the
know.
train.
I think she
going
would
out
handle
into the
it.
ocean.
Yeah.
I think she could handle it.
Yeah.
I
And I
think
mean,
you always say you're the calm in the storm. That would be testing it.
Not that kind of
And
storm.
it's-
Shit, I mean
yeah.
a metaphorical storm.
if you were, here's the thing, if you were doing the training and not going to the oil rig, I think it would be a lot of fun. But if
That's
you were
what I
going to
think.
do the training and then you're okay, cool, you're about to go do this helicopter trip that there's one big crash a year, then you're fuck.
So you're not watching that Mark Wahlberg movie
Oh,
when you're
fuck.
about to go out to do
It's a
this,
good
right?
movie,
Absolutely
though.
not.
It's a good movie.
It's a good
But then there's other crazy shit that they do too, because there's all this other wild shit that could happen where on there could be an explosion on the oil rig, and then you have to get into this crazy tube that feels like an amusement park ride, and then you shoot down this it's kind of like a big slide, but for a big life raft thing, and that's an intense thing, and yeah, so it's
So it's not
there's-
just the helicopter. There's a
that.
ton of other survival.
yeah, fire extinguisher training. There's another one that they do that they have 20 shipping containers all welded together, and they put you in, and it's pitch black in the shipping containers. And the whole thing is like, if the place got smoked out and you couldn't see anything, could you get to a safe place? So then they put you in, it's like 10 people, and they put you in, and the game, like, you're supposed to feel your way around the side of the entire thing to like get through all these 20 shipping containers. And there's obstacles and stairs and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, like, then they put people inside of it and break you up and then start like banging on the walls. So it's kind of that like psychological fucking with your head to like, you know, don't freak out. You're in this dark shipping container. Like, can you get through to the end? You know, if you hear all this banging. So stuff like that.
Now, is there extra, I mean, I don't know, to do that with my, at that time, fiance, that's a whole nother layer. I mean,
that was
the fact you guys still got married after that means that you stuck by her. You didn't were like,
let me just say,
that
like,
seatbelt clip's done. I'm out.
Yeah. Timey is a fucking badass. So I will say that. Like, she was the, like, you know, she's always the one who's like got it together and like got her shit together and just like fucking down for anything, which is cool.
It wasn't a situation where like, Nick, you left me.
Oh, no.
I was in the container and you left me.
No, never. Like, she probably got out of the container before me. But like, there's definitely a moment where you're like, you know, you've been through some shit where they let you do an air tank for like the first couple times you went into the helicopter and they flip you upside down. So it just kind of helps with the like, within your survival suit, there's like a little air chest so you can kind of like breathe in and like get one extra breath so you're not holding it for a couple minutes. You're just kind of holding it for a few seconds. But there's this moment where like I was across from Timey, and right as they're about to dunk you, because sometimes they dunk you ahead of time and sometimes they take you underwater and then dunk you. Depends on how the helicopter capsizes. And me and Timey look at each other, and then in their kind of broken English, Norwegian, they were like, okay, without the air tank this time. And then me and Timey were like, fuck. But like, they didn't give you any warning. Right. They were just like, we were like neck deep in water looking at each other. And they were like, no air tank. And then we're just like, fuck. And they were just looking at each other like, guess we're doing this. Wow. You know, you take a deep breath and then like, you know, you break out and she gets out of the window and then I get out of the window. And yeah, so you go through some cool shit together. It's like an amazing experience to work with your partner because you like, what we always say is like, I get to see her at her best, and she gets to see me at my best. You know, kind of in your mode, in your world,
and the flip side, your worst. So
yeah, absolutely. You know, there's definitely the worst too, and people always think it's like so cool to work with your wife, and you know, like, oh, that must be so easy, or so this, or so that. And it's not that it's easy or hard. It's that you guys can both have a really long, crazy, hard, stressful, whatever day.
But if you wipe the cards. If you wipe the cards, does that end the marriage? Is that what happens? Shit.
But yeah, you're basically work collaborators all day, and at the end of the night, then you're relationship partners. You know, like that's where you're kind of doing
That's
both.
A tough line to toe. Madeline, what do you think? Could you work with your significant other?
I think it would be hilarious. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
I mean, to each their own. I'm glad that it works for you guys.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for everybody. What's the thing that you haven't done that you want to do? Because you've done a lot. In
this business?
Yeah. Yeah. In this business.
God, like what could I shoot essentially that I haven't shot?
Or is there aspirations for you outside of shooting?
It's a good one. I'd like to get back to the skateboarding stuff.
For real?
Yeah. The skateboarding
Fucking
stuff,
skaters.
but like
back to your roots.
Fucking skaters.
Fucking skateboarders. But you know, it's cool. Like the thing that made you, it's nice to like go back to, you know? So it'd be not to like make skate videos forever, whatever, you know, just like, yeah, just do some more skate stuff.
You're doing like the Michael Jordan, Tony Hawk doc.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be cool. Skateboarding, I feel like doing like the good skateboarding doc is really hard too, because it's an easy thing to just like, it can really get cheesy fast.
Yeah.
And, you know, I talked with Jason about it a ton. Like, it's a hard one to crack of like, how do you do it with like taste and like make it good? But that's kind of always been like in the back of my head. Like, how do you get back to the skateboarding? Because it's fun, you know? It's like, it's nice. It's cool when it's your thing you get. Like when you're filming something, you're like, oh, I get this thing. I know how to drop into a world and like pseudo get a thing for like a day, like whatever it is, you know, football, makeup, this, like, that's like the art of, I feel like, being doing what I do is like to be this chameleon, to like drop in, understand a world, like film the world, and then like drop out of the world. But skateboarding is one of those things you're like, oh, I know this thing more than anything else in the world. So it'd be cool to go back and something's, I don't know what it is yet. I'm still sitting on it, but it's something skate. I think that's the...
If I brought to you a firm, profitable roller blade dock, where does that stand in the skater world?
Embarrassing.
It's a no go.
I
bring you the premier rollerblader of the 90s. We got Netflix money behind it. It's a no go.
Dude,
That's where the line is drawn.
There's a rivalry, like it's just like baked into the. Yeah.
What's up with skaters being cinematographers? Because most of the stable, I feel like we're running a after school program for skaters, converting them to the real world. Because everybody I know has got some sort of skating background. What is it about skaters that makes this such a...
Why do a lot of cinematographers and DPs transition from skateboarding? I would say it's because skateboarding teaches you to be pretty self-sufficient. You know, when you're the dude with the camera, you know, going out, hanging out with these dudes skating, like there's not a team of people. There's not a crew. There's not, you know, all of these extra bodies around. It's like, it's just you. You know, you are the camera department, the sound department, the, you know, background. You're like making sure everything's good. You're setting it all up. You're doing the editing. Like, it really does teach you the fundamentals of the film business. In a way, whether you know it or not, like you just have to learn how to do everything.
Oh, I love that you
I would
jump
love
in.
it.
Join me back here.
Hold on, because we got a room full of skaters here. So why do you think, Jason, Jason's coming from behind the camera, everyone. Why do you think skaters make it in the film world the way that I've seen them, at the rate that I've seen them make it?
Yeah, I mean, being a skate filmer myself and seeing a lot of skate filmers in my time, skate filmers, for starters, it's a thankless job. Like, in skating, everyone's looking at the skateboarder doing the amazing trick. They're not looking at the filmer who's breaking his back the whole time, hunched over with a fisheye underneath the stairs, every try going like this, like over and over again. The dude's back's breaking.
And you gotta treat every take like it's gonna be the one that lands. So if they do it 150 times, you have to put in 100% effort 150 times.
Exactly. And you're in the cold, you're uncomfortable, you're hungry, you gotta pee, but no, the trick is more important. So skaters are used to that, skate filmers are very used to that grueling process. The second they get on set and the director's like, you need to be here, you need to get this, especially in doc settings, they're like, oh yeah, I can do that, that's no problem. Oh, I'm getting paid for this too? Dope, like that's awesome. Yeah. Skaters like don't know how money works, so the second they're getting paid for it, they'll do anything. Because they're used to, in the skate world, you give your footage to a skate magazine or whatever. They're not paying you for that. Like, skating is a very fried world, to say the least. And then, like, at the end of the day, you film tricks. It's all exciting. You have the camaraderie of all your skate friends, just like the camaraderie of a crew. To me, I was like, why do I like video production? I was like, it's just like a day out skating. So, especially if you like the people you work with, to me, it's the same as going out skating, because I realized that even about myself with skating. I was like, why do I like skating so much? I'm like, I just really like my friends and going out in the world and going on adventures with them. And that's what video production can be.
Right. I think that's the addicting part of this.
Bar.
Shit. Damn.
Yeah.
Enough skating.
That's the truth right there.
On to the next.
That's the truth, though. I mean, so skateboard doc, that's what's left on the table for Nick.
So
what
skateboard's
about
something? I don't know. And then I gotta have kids and figure all that shit out too.
outside?
That's sidebar.
Kids, whatever.
Yeah.
Skateboard doc.
I'm just gonna be like, yo, Pete, how did you do this?
Not well.
Send me a voice memo.
Trying. I'm trying, man. So, all right, real quick, for all the aspiring cinematographers at home, you're a camera PA, you are an AC. How do you make it to Nick Midwig status?
I would say, I thought about this on the ride here, that there's two elements to it. that like any advice I would give to anyone is one, like the first thing about like if you're doing anything in this business or just like anything in general, what drives me absolutely fucking crazy is when somebody has had ample time to figure something out and then tells me they don't know how something works. Right? And if I can go on to the internet in 2 minutes and figure out how it works, then that's not an acceptable answer. Like that, harness the power of the internet. Literally the phone is in your fucking pocket. You don't know how a camera works. You don't know how the software works. You don't know how this works. You know, instead of leaning on someone else to tell you how something works, that is such a fundamental skill set to this industry that like perplexes me when somebody, you know, and I'll like show up and say, whatever it is, this piece of gear is acting up. And then be like, yeah, I just don't know how the thing works. And I'm like, well, did you Google it? Did you look it up? Did you figure out how? Did you exhaust all options? You know, because for me, that was, whether you do this or not, you know, like whatever. But like when I would go on set and I never worked with a camera before and I'd be a camera assistant or a technician or this or that, or, you know, I went online the night before. I watched every single video I could find about that camera. And then I read the manual and then I download the manual and I'd have it on my phone. And then you know, so there just wasn't excuses for not knowing the answers to things. Because it's just like, I could understand if this was like 50 years ago, whatever, you know, it's like there's one physical manual of the camera and you can't get access to the camera. The camera's just in the rental house. You can only go to the rental house or whatever, you know, but everything is the internet, everything. So if you don't know how to do something, it's do your research to the thing. Like, did you exhaust all the solutions to find the answer to something? Is don't
as
come
valuable
to me.
as you can possibly fucking be.
If you come to me and tell me you don't know the answer, you want the answer from me, and then I don't have the answer and I have to go to Google to find the answer, you're wasting my time. You know, so that's ultimately, I think, like a skill set that, I mean, I have skill set, I don't know, but like, I think that should just be like baked into everyone's head, whether it's the film business or any business. Like, did you exhaust all options to figure out the answer to this before coming to me? No? Then go exhaust all options to find out the solution to this problem before coming to me. So I think that's like a big fundamental step. And I think if you can learn that young in the business, that is just such an asset. Like, it just builds this like sense of empowerment. And then the other thing I would say is like, with that, don't get too cocky with that information, that the only thing you can't harvest off of the internet is experience. That's the one thing that, like, if someone's been doing this for 20 years more than you,
it's not on a YouTube
doesn't
clip.
matter how much you know,
right?
They still have more experience than you, and that's an invaluable asset.
I lived in the days of PAing where they would ask me to go drop a script off at this address, and I might be gone for 3 hours because I don't have Google Maps. That didn't exist. I had a beeper.
Were you asking Jeeves? Were you asking Jeeves to MapQuest you there?
I probably was asking Jeeves. I had MapQuest.
Are you dating yourself?
I am dating myself. I'm going to be honest with you. Everyone, we have $1 trillion phone in our pocket, right? It has technology that didn't exist. I would go on the subway and just be gone. I'd be in Queens somewhere. I was supposed to go to Brooklyn. It's a wrap. I'd come back 3 hours later and be like, guess what? Here's the script. I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. Okay? Tell Steve Jobs to figure this shit out.
I tried.
I had Google Maps and I still. 3 hours.
You know what? So take advantage of the technology that we have. I mean, that's the key.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm honored to kick off the Rebel Roadshow with you.
Yeah, man.
And
I was the like pilot pod. I was like the work out of the kinks. Like let Jason get really flustered about all 4 cameras.
Yep.
First.
Yep. I wanted the skater community aspect. I want everyone to feel comfortable, right? Everyone to feel fucking comfortable. But this was good, so thank you.
This was good, man. Yeah.
And thank you for the cocktails, Madeline.
Yeah.
Anytime.
We're gonna have you back.
Anytime.
And Zucks, send it to the internet, my friend.